Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Tony R. Sanders. And we are here with another episode of Stories We Tell Ourselves. This show is all about mastering that internal dialogue. It's all about making sure that the mental roadblocks that you may come up against in your effort to try to do anything successfully, that we tear down those roadblocks. We don't want anything standing in your way of your success. Now, we have to remember your success is defined by you. It's not defined by me. It's not defined by the other people who watch this show. It's not defined by my guests tonight. Your success is defined by you. And so we want to give you the tools, the resources, the information, and the motivation to make sure that we block and break down all those mental barriers. And we're going to do that again tonight. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for showing up. We're a little bit later than normal, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I like this time slot. I think the 7 o'clock time slot may be the time slot for me. I'm not going to change all the shows for the rest of the week, but you never know. I may just start popping up anywhere. I'll be like the little whack-a-mole thing where I just like pop up different times in different places, and you got to figure out when you can catch them. You got to have those notifications on. So thank you so much for being here. Do me a favor, drop a comment in the comment section if you're watching this live and just say hello, throw some light bulbs in the comments. I just want to make sure that we are getting out there and that you guys are here. I see some of you watching. Don't be a ghost watcher. No one wants to be that guy or girl that ghost watches from the corner and never says hello or anything. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Say hello. Say, how are you doing? Say what's up. We want to make sure that we make the show as interactive as possible. Okay. So we have a special guest for you tonight. I know I say that every night, but I mean it, just like I meant it the night before and the night before that. Here's the cool thing about our special guest, right? I like to give you guys information about like how I met someone and, how we connected and all these other things. Well, this person, we have an interesting story because I actually met her twice. Does that ever happen to you? You ever meet someone and then you kind of forget that you met them and then you meet them again and it's like, oh yeah, we met before. I met this person when I was doing a charity event at my old elementary school. I went to my elementary school, the place where I went to 3rd grade, 4th grade, maybe even 5th grade. And it was kind of weird because it looked exactly the same. I'm pretty sure the same pizza that they served me back in, what was that, 1990, 1995, something like that, 93, somewhere in that range. They were serving the same square little pizza and the same little juice and the white milk and the chocolate milk. But anyway, we were there and a mutual friend introduced us. Hey, this is Lisa Mitchell. And I was like, oh, Lisa, how are you? And I said, good. What do you do? And I told her what I did. And I said, well, what do you do? And she said, I'm a body language expert. And I like melted in my skin. I'm like, okay, I can't move now. I don't want to talk. All of my deepest, darkest insecurities, she's going to pull out of me because of the way I look this way or look that way. But she was super cool about our interaction. And actually, she made me feel really comfortable even in that moment. We talked a quick second about that and talked a quick second about volleyball. And my daughter's interested in volleyball, all these other things, right? So that was it. That was my introduction to Lisa Mitchell. And then a few weeks ago, a mutual friend of mine who watches this show, Amanda, shout out to Amanda, she said, hey, I should connect you with Lisa Mitchell. She actually sent me one of her videos, and the video was talking about being on Zoom. And it was kind of all these unexpected consequences or unexpected impacts of being on Zoom, being on video in your house, which is something that a lot of us aren't thinking about, but especially me. I'm not thinking about it because I like being on video. I do the show for free because I want to, not because I have to. So I didn't think about it, but it really spoke to me because she had a unique angle and a unique perspective. And I want her to bring that to my audience tonight, to you guys, the viewers, the people, as Bane would say. And so I'm super excited to have her here. So, ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you are, where you're watching, let's give a virtual round of applause to the wonderful, the incredible Lisa Mitchell. How are you?
Hello. I could not be better, honestly.
That's good.
My favorite thing in the world. So I'm excited to be here.
That's really good to hear. This side by side has to look crazy because you're like, you look great. The earrings are fabulous. The hair is fabulous. The makeup is fabulous. And I haven't shaved in months. So I don't know what's going on right now.
It's live TV Tuesday for me. So it's the only day of the week when I pull myself together. I try to record as much as I can. I'm live on Indie Style on Tuesday morning. So this is like just recycled from this morning and good lighting and let's get it done.
I love it.
This week I'll look like this.
I love it. You are killing quarantine. I love it. Hey, so listen, Lisa, do me a favor. Just introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, that depends on the day. Honestly, I kind of like to do all the things and all at the same time. So currently, I am the founder of Power Body Language, and that is a communications consulting company that helps people show up as their most clued in and confident selves in any room that they walk into. I specialize in body language. I'm also a certified forensic interviewer, so I'm pretty good at asking questions with just making people feel safe enough to tell me what they need to tell me and to try to get to the truth. And so that's really kind of the approach that I take, is helping people learn the tools and the tactics to feel really good about how they're showing up in the rooms that they need to show up in, and having influence and just feeling as powerful as they can based on how they're showing up, how they're presenting themselves. And nothing I teach is difficult or complex. We're all naturally gifted in body language. It just helps a lot when you know what to use and when to use it, and how to move yourself forward towards your goal. So that's what I spend most of my time doing. I work for a nonprofit as well. We do help kids learn social emotional learning skills and communication skills, and let them feel good about how they're showing up in the world, and help educators move them along in their journey there too as well. So just helping people know how to ask questions, answer questions, and show up in their places in a way they're proud of is really kind of mission critical for me.
I love it. I love it. I want to give a shout out to a couple people that are watching this live. Alicia Elkins, I see you. Alicia says 7 is good. I like that. Robert Douglas Calhoun II is here. What up? Thomas is here. Evangelist Clorinda Stebbins is here. Amanda Hutchison is here, who I referenced earlier, who connected us. So thank you so much, Amanda, for that. Michelle is here, of course. Scott Talima is here from YouTube. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here, and a couple other people here.
Interestingly enough, is an FBI negotiator. So
really,
he's a negotiator. That's his specialty, is negotiations, high stakes situations, talking people into making better decisions and de-escalation. He's boss.
Scott, let's connect. Scott, let's connect. I want to talk to you. Yeah. One of the most, this is kind of off subject, real contingent. One of the most interesting and impactful courses that I've taken over quarantine. I'm signing up for courses left and right. I got more courses than I have time. But one of those ones was a FBI agent and negotiator, and it was the art of negotiation. I can't think of his name, but he wrote a book about it as well. Say it again. Yes.
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Absolutely. He did a course, a master class, in fact. And one of the things that I learned in that master class was called tactical empathy. He broke it down. It was amazing. And, I've been thinking about, how to apply that even in my day-to-day interactions. Not that you have to buy into someone else's belief systems, but understand their belief systems, understand what makes them tick, what's important to them, and have empathy for that situation if you want to work with them in order to get something done. So a little quick aside, has nothing to do with what we're talking about today.
You and Scott will have a great conversation, because
yes,
it's incredible. Yeah.
Scott, let's connect. Okay.
That happened.
Thank you. Lisa, this is what I want to know. With what you do, I think it's amazing and important work. I love the idea that we're naturally gifted at the ability, like, for body language. So that's interesting. I want to ask more questions about that. But before I do that, I want to know, when introducing yourself to people, do you ever get the reaction that I gave you the first time we met, where it's like, oh, I'm going to crawl up in a ball now and die because I don't know what's happening?
Well, that's why, depending on who I'm with and how bad I want to wig them out, I'll either say that I'm founder of a communications consulting company, or I'll say I'm a body language expert, or I'm a forensic interviewer, or, interrogator, or depending on the level of weirdness and awkwardness I want to inject immediately into a situation, that determines how I introduce myself. But yeah, it's fun. I always say, don't worry, I'm off duty. So unless you do something like blatantly dangerous that threatens my physical or psychological safety, I'm going to give you a pass and keep collecting evidence for a while before I put the jury in on you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Now, tell me about being gifted or naturally gifted in body language. What does that mean?
Yeah, it just means, like, the reason I really fell in love with this kind of field of interest when I was looking for my next great thing to dive into was that body language is an inherent gift. It's something that we all naturally do, and to varying degrees, and it's really a great equalizer. So when I'm talking to third graders or I'm talking to CEOs, of major corporations, I'm basically sharing the same skills with them. The beauty and the differentiation comes when it's applying it to the outcomes that they're looking to get. So for third graders, it's like really helpful for them to understand where in their body do they physically feel an emotion. So if a student is agitated or maybe having anxiety before a test, you can ask them, well, what are you feeling right now? It's like, oh, well, it's really tight in my stomach. So, okay, well, let's get up and get big, take up some space, kind of shift that physical energy a little bit. And that helps calm down what's going on the internal as well. But just having the language of understanding how what you're feeling internally shows up externally, and being able to have a language and a set of tools around that is really helpful, whether you're a student or whether you're a professional, or whether you're working through anxiety, or whether you just want to feel really grounded going into a high stakes conversation. There's lots of reasons why it helps you, and it's really just what are you walking into every day. But the mechanics of it is really similar no matter how old you are, and it doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor, if you're educated or uneducated. It's really a great equalizer for people to all have access to this tool and to be able to master it in meaningful ways pretty quickly and pretty easily. So that's what I love about it. It doesn't take an advanced degree. It doesn't take a huge amount of studying to really start getting some practical benefits from it.
But it does sound like it takes a level of self-awareness, right? So I think of people who tell me, I don't even know what my face is doing right now, or I don't even know what my hands or what my body is doing right now. So is self-awareness a big part at just having, I don't want to say great body language, but maybe just knowing what your body language is?
Yeah, it absolutely is really helpful to have self-awareness. So I will tell you though, based on the audiences that I'm in front of, which are usually executives, kind of textbook successful high achiever type of people, I have to frame it as learning how to decode other people to get them interested and get the guard down, because nobody wants to be told they need to be self-aware. Right. So I kind of reverse psychology it into, oh, you're going to learn how to decode or how to read other people to give you an advantage and to leverage that towards your success. And by default, by understanding the mechanics of other people, they're learning and reflecting back on, oh, well, how do I show up when I'm making a first impression? Or what are my tells when I'm nervous or anxious or angry? And how can I get more control over me? So I kind of go in the opposite way, because people don't like that term self-awareness doesn't go over real good with some crowds, but they all want to figure other people out. So
I love that. I love that, because I do the same thing when I train people on DISC, right? So it's a behavioral analysis, behavioral assessment, and no one wants to be analyzed by 72 questions on a thing, right? But if the context is, we're going to help you communicate better with your leader so you can understand more about your leader, or understand more about the people that you lead and help you communicate better with them, then everyone's all excited about it. So I love that approach, and I've used that approach several times myself. Quick pause, really quick. I want to reset. If you guys are just now watching this, you're just now tuning in because someone was amazing and they shared this with their feed, or they shared this with a friend, and now you're watching and you're like, who are these two people on camera? Well, me, I'm Tony R. Sanders, and you're watching the show Stories We Tell Ourselves. And over here, I have an amazing guest. This is Lisa Mitchell. She's a body language expert, or a communications expert. I don't know who you ask, right? But she is here today to talk to us about the topic that I want to get into now, is how our thoughts can show up in our body language. And here's why I think this is an important conversation right now. Most of us, and even including myself, someone who loves being on camera, most of us are in front of a camera more than we ever have been in any other times in our lives, right? I just had virtual coffee with someone that I'm networking with this morning. We jumped on a Zoom call, and for the first 5 minutes of the Zoom call, like there was no one on the other end. It was just a talking voice, but no camera, right? So some people aren't comfortable being on camera, but we're forced to be because of our job, or we want to connect with our family or do different things. And so we're a little self-conscious about being on camera, right? Or you mentioned in one of your videos, we may be revealing our economic status by putting ourselves on camera inside of our home, or we're giving people a different level of privacy. My first question for you about this topic is, can you really tell or see someone's mindset or their thoughts or their insecurities or worries or whatever show up in their body language? Because is that a true thing?
Yeah, we're leaking our intrinsic internal feelings outwardly all the time, and it really doesn't matter how skilled you are. Like, the thing I tell people up front when I'm working with them is I can teach you science-based skills and tactics and techniques, and I can, talk to you about what conveys power and high power and what conveys low power, and I can show you what that looks like, and you can learn it and you can execute it. But if it's not something that you are intrinsically feeling, the truth is going to leak out. And what happens, and what's really unfortunate, is when people are faking something, when they're displaying something through mechanics outwardly, but inwardly there's some sort of conflict or contradictory feeling, it ends up leaving people on the other side of them feeling like, noticing the incongruency. And many times it's kind of just a subconscious processing that they're doing. They don't even realize it, how they're evaluating or how they're determining how they feel about somebody, but they either feel confused, or they don't trust them as much, or they find them not as likable, because there's some sort of like conflict between what they're outwardly seeing and hearing, but then there's little tells or little leaks that are kind of telling a different story. And so that's where you really leave. Like, have you ever met somebody and everything is like textbook polite and good and positive, but they walk away and you're kind of like, like you're kind of confused. Like, you don't really know exactly, like, there's no reason to feel not good about them, but you don't feel great about them, and there's no reason why. Like, that's probably what's going on. It was probably some sort of outward presentation that was contradicted somewhere, either by facial expressions or body language or word choice. Like, somewhere the truth is coming out, and it's going to make the person receiving that or perceiving the other side of that experience, they're going to feel just kind of just weird about you. And they might not even know why, but it very seldom leaves them feeling more positive about you. It usually works to your detriment, because we're just meant to be suspicious if people aren't congruent. So our brains are real good about processing all of this in the background when we're meeting somebody or interacting with somebody.
There's a great quote by Maya Angelou, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm saying paraphrase because I don't know if I'm going to quote it exactly, but in essence, it says that people won't remember what you said to them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Right. And when it comes to body language, you're 100% right. That interaction, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, if something's weird about someone's body language, even though we may not understand it that way or be able to articulate it that way, maybe it's saying something's just off, I don't know what it is, that helps aid in the act of losing sales, losing business, losing potential relationships that could really be beneficial to both people. It really, blocks us and knocks us down a lot, right? So I wonder if you experienced that too in your coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for me, again, kind of working classically with high achievers and kind of textbook successful people, by all accounts, if you just looked at their resume or you look at what they've done inside their companies, of course they're confident. Of course they're successful. Of course they feel qualified to be a leader. But then you have the internal game. You have I call it head trash, right? So you have the imposter syndrome. You have people wondering, am I the right person to be in this position or in this job? Or am I going to be found out that I'm not as smart or capable as people might think I am? All of these kind of internal thoughts, even though they have the credentials and they should feel great and they should absolutely be that leader that other people expect them to be, they're not feeling that confidence, or they're not buying into that narrative internally as far as their own value and their abilities. And that they can try to show up confident, but then it comes off as arrogant, or it comes off as not being empathetic, or it comes off as confusing for people. It's just not a good mix. If the internal and the external aren't aligned, it shows up somewhere and it just makes people feel weird about you.
Gotcha. So a couple of things here. Jody Hook is here. Said good stuff, Lisa.
Jody Hook, that's my mom. That's
mom.
That's mom's. I told you she was jumping on.
Yeah, we talked before. It's like my mom's gonna be on. I was like, well, my dad's gonna be on. So
fault that this is happening. So
I love it. Michelle says it's like something is off about them. She's had that experience. Thomas says he loves the Maya Angelou quote. He lives by it. So I appreciate you guys chiming in and sharing that. I also see a couple people sharing this out to their networks. Amanda Hutchinson shared this out. So I appreciate you sharing that as well. A few other people shared it out. So make sure that you share this out. You know, if you feel like other people in your network, on your news feed, or your group chat, or your work group chat, or whatever, invite them in. Let's talk to them. And if you guys have questions for Lisa about body language, I know I do. Make sure you put those in the chat. And producer Dart is here. She's going to make sure that we get those on the screen. So we've talked about kind of the importance of body language. We even talked about how it could be a detriment to certain relationships in a business perspective or a personal perspective if we don't have it under control. And I keep hesitating to say, you know, good body language or bad body language, but is that a thing? Is it good body language and bad body language, or positive body language and negative body language? How do you phrase that?
I think you need to look at the context of what are your objectives and what outcomes are you driving towards. So there's body language, like everything is on a spectrum. So there's kind of low end of the spectrum, high end of the spectrum, and then there's kind of the ideal or the target range. And that's really personalized for you based on what your outcomes are, based on what's natural for you, based on what fits in the context that you're using it in. So there isn't really right or wrong. I would say there's more like helpful and hurtful body language. And so I think it's more, especially when you're looking at, you know, the mechanics of building trust and how you can help kind of turn the alarm bells off in people's brains when they meet you and they're evaluating, because as humans, we're wired first and foremost to feel like, to sort somebody out of like, are they going to kill you or hurt you? Right. Yeah. The first thing we need to sort out is physical safety. And then we get into psychological safety before we can get into trust and positive, you know, outcomes. So it's really like making it easy. And for some people, they're looking kind of, you know, lizard brain, prehistoric brain is looking for hands to see, could you be holding a weapon or something that can harm me? Eye tracking studies show every time we walk by somebody or every time somebody comes into our physical space, our eyes are looking at their hands first, because our hardwiring is looking to assess physical threat. So if you can make it easy by keeping your hands kind of loose and visible, like not crazy jazz hands, because that's alarming. If you know how people's brains work to assess risk, and you can use some sort of body language tactic and deliver a really great handshake. I mean, when we could touch each other, now it's like elbow bumps or waves or whatever our new norm is. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you use the skill to help people feel safe with you? Because until somebody feels safe with you, they can't listen to you.
Right.
If somebody can listen to you, you can't get whatever outcome it was, whether it was building connection, building trust, getting a sale, you know, winning somebody's loyalty, whatever you're going for. If they don't physically feel safe with you, their brain is not going to even let them listen to what you're saying. Like, you've got to do that first. And so using those mechanics and those tools by just understanding how your brain works and how their brains work is a great way to kind of jumpstart that process of trust and just make it easier for you to get into the relationship and rapport building part.
You're 100% right. And I love the terminology of helpful versus hurtful body language, right? So when I was in sales, before I was a sales coach, I was the crazy guy in the sales center that like wouldn't sit down, wouldn't take my chair until I got my first sale, because I wanted to be upright, and I was used to doing face-to-face sales. I wasn't used to doing over the phone sales, but I understood that body language was still important in my energy and how I presented things and how people receive things, right? And then I would have people that they did this thing, right? They were like sitting back, they got their feet up, you know, and
they're like all slunched over and super tiny and small, and like that all shows up vocally for you. And
absolutely.
That, and they hear that, they hear a smile in your voice, they hear your energetic presence. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. That person's like half laying down on the phone, and they're like, I'm 0 for 12, bro. I don't know why. I'm like, I think I know why. No one wants to talk to you while you're laying down. What are you doing here?
So your vibe is bad. Like, stand up, get some energy, man. Help yourself a little bit.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, this is my question. What can I do if you're coaching me, right? I'm on video all day, whether
Sure.
it's doing this show or a different show or webinar, virtual coffees. A lot of our viewers are on shows and doing, video stuff, or they want to be on camera. A lot of people in my audience, Lisa, they want to do a show or they want to do a podcast or a video series or go live on Instagram.
Everybody can. And
Everybody can, but they're nervous, Lisa. They're nervous because they got all these things swirling. And now we've raised their awareness, right? That stuff can show up in your body language. So coach us through it. What does helpful body language look like?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first, it's mindset, and it's throwing out your made up rules. And this is something I learned. I paid a lot of money and got really, really beat up by some people who really knew what they were doing. Because when I first started working in this space, in the coaching space or expert space or whatever, I had made up all these arbitrary rules based on who I was watching do similar things. And I was like, oh, well, it has to be this and it has to be this. And I have to always give a study or a validation or a credential. And they're like, who told you that? Like, you have all these made up rules that is totally stifling your personality and your presence and your likability. Like, you're killing your presence on camera because you have all of these made up rules about what you think people on camera do, instead of just showing up and having a conversation with one person on the other side of the camera. Like, that's it. Like, it's not any harder than that. Bring your personality, bring your full self, give people the experience. Like, if you and I were sitting across the table from each other in a coffee shop, which hopefully we can do someday soon, you would get exactly this.
Right.
Like, that's it. It seems so oversimplified to be like, oh, be authentic. But like, really, if you are not showing up as you would in the same physical space with somebody in an intimate conversation, just doing life together, people will feel like you are performing, and people do not want a performer.
Right.
Connection. And so it took me seriously, I had to record a 1-minute video. I recorded it 103 times. A 1-minute video 103 times, and got my butt kicked 102 times because I would not let the wall down and just show up and have a conversation and just stayed in their pen and give something practical. Like, it was tears and tears and tears. Like, my daughter used to joke. She's like, oh, is that Steve from New York that cusses a lot? Because I would like have a call with him and I would be fine. And then I would cry when we hung up because I couldn't let him see me cry because he's a tough New Yorker. Yeah. But that experience, as painful as it was like, that is what has stuck with me, is like, you have got to just get over yourself and show up. Because for me, it's like, oh, it's on video, it's forever, and people are going to critique it and judge it. And like, hey, people are not paying as much attention to you as you think they are.
Right.
We're all wrapped up in our own story, in our own head, working through our own problems. Attention is currency now. So if you earn someone's attention, if they give you the currency, then you would better show up in relationship. Like, period. People don't want to be taught. They want to learn stuff through story, which is why you're so brilliant with what you're doing here. Nobody wants to be taught. If they wanted to be taught, they'd buy a textbook. They want to learn through an experience or through a story or through some sort of hands-on emotional connection type of time with you. They don't want to be taught. And that was where I was hung. I was like, oh, well, I'm clinical and I'm academic, and they're like, nobody's going to listen to you because you're not likable when you do that. Just sit down and talk to somebody.
No, you just nailed it. I always say that storytelling is the hidden language of the human race, right? So for me, you talk about people don't want to be taught, they want to have an experience. I would agree with that. And I would add to that also that people learn more when they can take information and attach it to an experience, right? So if you think about how we learn as individuals, when we learn something new, we normally try to attach it to something else that we already know. So we'll say, oh, that's just like this, right? So we take that new information and we attach it to an experience. And so when I'm creating content for people, I want to give you a full experience while you're learning, almost as if you don't realize you're learning. You're just experiencing something that you enjoy, but you still walk away with and you can digest those things later as you kind of recap that experience that you have and you draw memories from those experiences, right? So that's one thing.
So I'm gonna tell you, just because you just brilliantly demonstrated something that I wanted to make sure that we hit on.
Do it.
Our brains, so if we're talking about leveraging body language, again, for our benefit and for the benefit of our audience, our brains are wired to look for movement. And when we can connect movement with key ideas or key terms that you want to share, we remember them much longer than just hearing. Like, we're lucky to remember verbal words 20% of the time. Like, that's on the high end. But if you can say the word, create a movement that makes my brain anchor into that, I am much more likely to at least retain the feeling or the experience, and to understand and retain and have more impact about what you've just shared with me. So you are brilliant at explanatory gestures, talking with your hands, walking people through, drawing that attention, and then counting through a process or stepping people through. It helps their brain pay more attention, and it also helps their brain categorize and retain information better because you're giving it visual anchors. So that's like that whole last section that you did. I was like, oh, he's killing the explanatory gesture game right now. So I just wanted to because that's one of the things I noticed, talking to you even the first time, was you're really great at helping my brain pay attention to you, and also to connect to the feeling or the experience that you're giving me, because my brain is looking for movement, is connecting to words, is feeling. And so that's kind of the magic formula of sharing information and creating experience right now.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
You're super good at it.
No, I appreciate that. We're definitely going to clip that and put that on Instagram. So that's coming soon. I also want to say, though, you just unlocked something for me, right? Big. I'm having major light bulb moments in the last 30 seconds of our conversation or so.
Good.
Here's one thing you unlocked for me. I am very passionate about getting people to tell their story online, because I know what it did for me, right? I know that how it's impacted my life, even to this day, but dating back, 6 years or more, what it's done for me. The problem I run into is they always tell me, like, well, I'm not that good on camera. I'm not that charismatic. I'm not like this and like that, the way that you are, right? And what I realize is, especially for people who don't know me well, I may come off as someone who is performing. But like, if you ask my wife who's watching, or my brother or my daughter who's there, like, this is pretty much me all day, every day. You know what I mean? So, but using the verbiage that you just used about, people don't want you to perform. They want you to connect. That is something that I can promise you I'm going to start saying to people. It doesn't need to be a performance. In fact, I prefer if it's not a performance.
It should not be a performance.
Yeah, we just want you to connect with people and sharing your story in truth, being authentic with your story. That's what's going to connect with people. I want you to have a similar experience, whether you watch my show or we meet virtually or in face-to-face like you and I did. Like, it's going to be the same guy, because that's who I am. So when you create your content, it's got to be the same person, because that's who you truly are. But it doesn't have to be a performance. In fact, it shouldn't be a performance. So thank you for that. That was a big unlock for me.
Good.
I
think too, like, it's important to note, because there's such a spectrum of personality types, and you can look kind of traditional, introvert, extrovert, ambivert. There's so much neurodiversity range now being recognized, and everyone's got a voice. You don't have to be the type of person that's swinging from the chandeliers to be good on video and to tell your story. In fact, most people, like, I'm really naturally a pretty giant introvert. Like, I get energy from being by myself. I work from home. Even before all of this, I'm pretty much, I joke that I do my best work on my island. I love connecting with meaningful ways with a small number of people, or I love being on a big stage and getting to have that energy of a crowd. But there's very little kind of mid-tier. I hate networking events. If I don't have a friendly face that I'm meeting at a museum opening, or like, so I don't want to go. Like, I'd rather sit in my car. Like, seriously, like, I've got to hype myself up to go in to to events and to things where I'm either not speaking and on stage or where I don't have my people. And so I say that to just encourage people, like, just show up how you show up. Like, not everybody's going to be a Gary Vee, and that's great. Like, Gary Vee's got his people and lots of people appreciate him, but that's not everybody's personality. You can be a quiet leader. You can have influence just by being vulnerable and by sharing your story. And quiet people are amazing leaders. And that doesn't mean that they're any less worthy to be on video or to share their story, because so many people are just like you. And what people are looking for is for a voice like them that has the bravery to just show up. And that's it. Like, we overcomplicate it and we give ourselves rules. And you know, for me, it's like, oh, well, I don't have a professional studio and everybody in my space has produced videos and everybody's full hair and makeup. And I'm not going to be credible if I don't show up like them. And it's like, they're not wrong. And I'm not wrong. We're just doing it differently, and we're serving different people and having our own personalities. And right now, especially, like, people are suspicious if your stuff is too good.
Yes.
If your production stuff is too good, now there's like a backlash in the expert space. And with things like, I'll tell you, the platform I love and I have learned so much from is TikTok, because TikTok, you love stories, get on TikTok. I am like a very emotionally neutral person. I will laugh. I will legit break down bawling at somebody's 60-second story that touches me so deeply. Like, I will learn about things and light my brain up with excitement about things I didn't even know I was vaguely interested in. The storytelling and just the freedom, the creative freedom to just show up has been so good. Like, it felt weird for me because it's too free. It really is just like, come as you are, say what you want to say, and somebody's gonna love it.
Yeah.
It's like the weirdest thing. It is a weird thing coming from the traditional, like, thought leader space of where it all had to be produced and lead to a course and go into a, it's like, no, like, just make people laugh, make them feel something, and then they'll get curious and want to know more. And
I struggle. I'll be honest. I struggle with that. Right. So we went from like having highly super produced, took a long time to develop videos, to more of this format. But even still, Lisa, I get people who say, and we're going to go to Q&A after this, I see questions coming in. Even still, I get people who say, like, you know, I want to do a show, but I can't do one like yours. Yours is way off, you know, I don't have a studio. I don't have first of all, let me, producer daughter, put my cell phone camera on the screen. I think maybe I should just start doing the show like this.
I shoot everything on my phone.
Like what if we just did the show like this? You know what I mean? Like
DSLR, but I shoot everything on my phone. I have a little tripod and a ring light, and like, that's it. Like, and I just go.
This might be the move. And you can see, like, I'm not in the studio. This is my house.
Better, yeah.
It might be, you know what I mean? But like, this literally doesn't matter. Like, the quality is not as important as the content that you're giving people. Like, people want to be able to see the value that you can provide them. So, producer Darty, you can take this off the screen now. We can go back to the normal camera. But my dad is here now. My dad is here. Yep, Tony Sanders Sr. He's down there. Also, I see that Ebony is here. Ebony says, that's exactly what I thought, thinking about my children. They don't want to be taught. They want to experience something on their own. That's a tough conversation right there. But yes, that is absolutely true. Let's get some questions on the screen here. I know I saw one come in earlier from Thomas. Let's see if I can go back to it.
Well, you're finding that, I want to say something about, like, because my daughter is 14. And for people like our age, like, we have got to get okay just turning your phone around and being on camera.
Yeah.
Like, our kids have grown up being on video, being on Snapchat, being on TikTok, FaceTiming their friends all the time. Like, there's no fear, there's no second thought, there's no pretense, and that's the authenticity bar. Like, that's where the bar has been set now.
Yeah.
Is you gotta meet it, right? And that requires for somebody like me to get over myself enough to, like, be doing TikToks and to be doing Instagram lives and just rolling out of bed and shooting a video. That pings on every insecurity that I've ever had in my whole life. But it's there's so much freedom in just like being like, screw it. I got something valuable to share. I got something funny. I want to connect in this moment. I'm going to just get over myself and do it. And
right.
that repeated muscle of bravery, it gets easier. It never feels comfortable. Like people are like, oh, someday I'm going to feel, no, you probably won't ever really like love being on camera.
Right.
But you can do it and you get over yourself, and then you realize, hey, this is a good way for me to help other people if that's what my mission is.
Right. Absolutely. Let's do some Q&A with the audience. This is a live show, guys. So if you have questions for myself or more importantly for Lisa, let's get them in the chat. Producer daughter, put them all on the screen. A couple of people I see in here. You're still ghost watching. We don't like ghost watchers. You got to do a couple things. If you watch the show, you got to do a couple things. Okay.
Everybody on here watching is here to add something valuable to this.
Yes.
So show
exactly.
up. We want to hear from you. Now's your time to shine. We're cheers.
Exactly. So you can comment your question. You can share this with someone. You can hit the little heart reactions on the post. We could do that as well. But I do see a couple questions coming in, so I want to grab one. Thomas says, "Does body language have any physical health benefits?" Does body language have any physical health benefits? It's a good question.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of them, and the primary one is just being honoring what an outward expression of how you feel inwardly just feels really validating and really good. So there's a bunch of studies around the value of taking up space. And this is like one of the areas of body language that I always make sure I hit on, especially with kids who maybe a lot of people don't feel seen or heard or valued at all. They get home at the end of the day and they feel invisible. And they take up less space because they feel less worthy of claiming space. So from a body language standpoint, just taking a moment to claim space, to get big, to spread out, whether it's in a car by yourself or in a room by yourself, like just raising your head up, putting your shoulders back, just taking up space. Or when you walk into a meeting at work, assuming we're back in conference rooms together again, or having dinner with coworkers or friends, like how much space do you take up? Like when I walk into rooms, especially mixed gendered rooms in executive levels, I walk into conference rooms and I freeze frame them at some point and just say, look at the space that you're claiming and why. Because historically, and again, this is not a slam on men versus women, but historically men will come in and take up as much space as they feel like taking.
Right.
So I'll come down and set my laptop down or my coffee mug and my jacket and maybe a jacket over another chair, right? Most women come and sit down and they take up exactly as much room as the width of their shoulders. And everything goes out only a certain distance on the table and everything's very contained. Or when we're sitting at dinner, our, hands are on the lap or very, very small. And it's not intentional, and there's lots of cultural reasons why we show up the way we do in space, but it conveys a message about confidence and about power. So playing small does not serve you from a confidence standpoint, and it doesn't serve you from a perception of confidence, because how we think we're showing up is only part of the story. It's how is the person on the other side of us, on the other side of our face, perceiving us. And does that help us or does that hurt us? So taking up space from a physical benefit standpoint is like a deep breath of just validation of I deserve to be here. I am worthy of taking up space. It increases your confidence. It lowers your anxiety. It's taking up space is correlated with victory. So athletes, there's an interesting study done by the University of British Columbia where they wanted to see if our reaction to victory or to winning, which is, what does it look like when you win? Like you get big, right? You take up all the space, you run around, you grab, you hug people, like you claim it all. What does it look like when you're defeated? When you drop the ball on the 1 yard line and blow the Super Bowl, right? Disappear, get small, close in, right? So they wanted to see, was this learned behavior? Was this something that athletes modeled based on what they perceived victory and defeat to look like? Or was this an innate kind of DNA driven worthiness, exhibition? So they followed blind athletes who had never seen, blind since birth, who had never seen what victory or defeat looked like. Different sports, different cultures. And what the study showed is that athletes that had never seen expressions of victory and defeat inherently got bigger if they were victorious, and shrunk down and got smaller if they were defeated.
Wow.
So there is an innate worthiness of how much space we can claim or should claim. And that is driven by how we feel internally. So just getting big and telling your body, like, our body follows our feelings, but our feelings will also follow our body. So you can actually kind of rewire how you're feeling internally by just shifting. You heard me say it earlier, shift your energy. You shift your energy by changing your space and by changing your movement. And that can inform internally a mood boost or how you feel better about yourself or validation or whatever you might be needing. So yeah, that's just one example. I think anytime you feel more clearly understood, like, how great does that feel?
Right.
Doesn't it feel nice to feel like somebody's really understanding you, not just guessing, but really like affirming that, yes, I've heard you and I've seen you. Body language and using it to communicate helps people more easily understand you. And I think to relieve frustration, man, understanding goes a long way towards that.
That's a big old light bulb moment, especially our body follows our feelings and our feelings follow our body. That's a big, big light bulb moment. Another question from the audience here from Michelle. She said, could people come across weird or off or even arrogant because they are nervous, or do they come across that way because they are that way? That's a deep question right there.
It's a deep question. Without having a full psychological profile of who we're talking about, what I will say is it is possible to be misunderstood if your body language is conveying cues that maybe are unintentional. So, for instance, like one of the most common examples is something called RBF, or resting brat face, we'll say, but the B is sometimes said something differently.
Oh, you cleaned it up.
I'm on live TV. There's no censor button. I got Brad is always my default. Yeah. So for some people, and I call it just an unfortunate default facial expression, right? Like, I'm not going to do it on camera because video lasts forever. But if you just let your face go slack, like no muscle control, no upturn anywhere, everybody's got RBF. Right. It's not a good look. I learned it the hard way by watching myself on video and me going completely slack face while the co-host was talking and me looking like I hated him, which was not at all congruent with how I felt on the inside. I learned I need to fix my face, because what I don't want is for people to assume a negative feeling about me, or that I'm feeling negatively towards them just because I'm not mindful of what's happening on my face. So that's one example. Same with other body language. Maybe I'm just naturally really like closed off. Maybe when I think, I get like a weird look on my face that could be perceived by someone else as standoffish or not interested. I need to have the self-awareness to know, and then I need to mindfully either fix that, which is choosing a different default facial expression. So for me, I have kind of a default, you've seen it here, where I'm kind of like upturned a little bit, eyes closed a little bit. That's engaged, but not mean, because my RBF is real serious. So I've learned to know what that feels like on my face when I'm in that like more positive, neutral expression. Same with my body language. I'm very much closed arm. So I've kind of come with some default kind of waiting positions that are a little less off-putting for somebody, or leaves a little less room to be misunderstood or misinterpreted. So it's really like, how much effort do you want to put into managing yourself to make sure the person on the other side of you has the right experience? But yeah, it is very possible to be misinterpreted. One of the things I will do, I am a huge fan of the upfront contract. So when I am really thinking through something, my face does this thing that could be perceived as, I don't like you.
Same.
Or I don't like what you're saying, but it's really just like my wheels are turning and I need a minute to like process. So I will, for important conversations, for things where it matters, especially like negotiations or kind of critical times with my clients, I upfront contract them and say, hey, if while you're talking, you see my face do this really unfortunate thing that looks like I hate what you're saying. I don't. I'm just thinking.
Mm.
And then it's a moment of transparency and vulnerability, and we kind of laugh about it. And then that way, because what happens is if you do something different than what someone expects you to do, they almost always assign a negative quality to it until you provide enough evidence to overrule it. So it's just what we do. If given the option to assign default negative or default positive value to something about someone else, we almost always exclusively assign default negative. So then you have to overcome. And if it's unintentional, it's really unfortunate that you have to work that hard to get back to neutral. Right? So upfront contract it. Once people know what to expect, then when they see it, they're like, oh, yep, we already know what this is. We don't have to pass judgment on it. I'm going to just keep moving forward in a positive way with her.
I love that. I need to start every show by saying, guys, this is Tony R. Sanders, and I have RTF. I have resting thinking face. And if producer daughter accidentally puts me on camera when I'm not expecting it, and I'm really intently listening, I'm like, and it's like, he hates this person. It's like, no, I don't hate this person. I'm just really thinking and digesting what they said. But okay, last question. I know we're way over on time. This comes in from a mutual friend of both of ours, Amanda Hutchison. She says, how can we be better virtual communicators on meeting platforms like Zoom? That's a big question.
Yeah, I'm spending a lot of time, like I'm just working on an outline now for a corporate training for that very thing. Lots of clients are asking for this, especially teams that have more virtual communication now than maybe they had previously to the time that we're in. It really is about, it's about a couple of things. It's about, again, showing up congruent, showing up authentic, like acting as if you're sitting across the room or the table from somebody. And that means when you're talking, if you normally use gestures to explain yourself and you're usually really animated, still be that way. Like even if everybody's got their camera turned off, or even if your camera's turned off, you perform vocally differently when you're gesturing and moving and energetic than you do if you're just sitting still, hands in your lap, slumped over. So maintaining your gestures, whether people can see you or not, is a really great way to keep your vocal performance interesting, ebbing and flowing, emotionality, maybe even sharing more stories than normal. So you're building that emotional connection since you don't have the opportunity to be in the same space. And for me, I really, if I don't have them on video, because I don't ever make it mandatory for people to be on video, there's lots of reasons people aren't comfortable or really aren't optimized on video. But if I'm leading a meeting and whether I can see people or not, I'm asking more validating questions. So I'm asking for more engagement. Like, what's an example you have? Or, does this make sense to you? Like I'm just kind of checking in and validating and giving them more opportunity maybe for vocal engagement than I would normally if I was just presenting in a conference room or a classroom type of environment. So being as close to in person as you can be is really is important. And then also showing more cues of active listening. If you are on video and someone else is speaking or presenting, it can be really intimidating when you're looking at a Brady Bunch square and everybody's just kind of like staring at you. So you can give a gift to the presenter or the leader or the facilitator by just active listening, smiling, nodding, showing a little bit more animation maybe than you would think to do. It's really validating as someone who's presenting or kind of on the stage during video calls to have some sign of life from people on the other side of their screen. And there's lots of reasons why people aren't as animated or don't contribute as much. But if you can kind of eke out some engagement questions or ask them to put things in the chat, or even if it's more just rapport building type of questions, and then look for those cues of listening and model that behavior yourself. That's something that mirroring kicks in, which is where once people see it, they kind of reflect it back to you. That can be a good way for you to kind of start it, is to show active listening cues to your attendees, and then hopefully they'll send them back your direction.
Love it. Thank you so much. This has been a master class on body language. I know that the audience received a lot of value. I see a question asking, what's an ambivert? An ambivert is something that I am as well. It's kind of someone who balances between introvert and extrovert. So people look at me and they think that I'm an extrovert, which I get, right? I get, but like people who like really know me, like my wife is watching this. She knows as soon as this camera goes off, I'm going to go like fall down. And I'm gonna get on the phone with my team. We're gonna talk about the show, talk about the episode, talk about improvement, and then I'll be up again, ready to go. But I need that time to just be like, But an extrovert would just keep going and going, and more energy and more energy and more energy. But like even after I do stand up, and I talk to people after the show, and we give hugs and all of that, then I get in the car and I'm just like.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I speak at a conference. I got 1,000 people. I'm on. I love it. I'm so energized. And then I go like hide in my car or go hide in my hotel room. And like I have to decompress from that because all of that energy coming back is really overwhelming. So I can't like immediately engage after. I have to kind of take a beat and then come back and talk to people and things like that. So it's really just managing where you get energy, what you feel energizes you and what you feel kind of depletes you, and knowing for yourself how you need to manage that in your environment.
Yep, but an ambivert is exactly what I am. It doesn't take me long to bounce back. I just need a second to like not talk to people and like recover, and then I'm right back at it. So thank you so much. This is a part of the show, Lisa, where I tell producer daughter to take me off the camera, solo you on the screen. This is your audience. These are your people. Tell them anything you want them to know as far as how they can contact you, any final parting wisdom or words, whatever you want to do. This is your screen. Take me off. Get me off of there. There we go.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you for that. First of all, thank you guys for spending your time listening to me tonight. I don't ever take that lightly. I have a huge amount of gratitude for anybody who is interested in this and is really just wanting to kind of grow how you connect and your effectiveness with people. So this is all you guys. Thank you for taking the time, because this is something that you're going to be able to use to serve other people. And it's going to make a big difference, and not just for you, but for the people on the other side of your face. So you're helping me reach my goal of helping 1 million people feel more included and confident in whatever room they walk into. So thank you. If you want to connect with me further, please do. I am everywhere. I'm at Lisa Mitchell Indy on Instagram and on TikTok. I'm on Facebook, Lisa Mitchell or Power Body Language. I'm on LinkedIn at Lisa Mitchell. I'm at powerbodylanguage.com for my website direct, or you can just go to my link tree, which is /Lisa Mitchell, and that'll take you to everything. I have courses and my YouTube channel. Wherever you like to go, I'm probably already there. And I would just love to see you connect there, answer any questions that you have, hit me up or leave them in the comments, and I'll follow up to make sure that we get you what you want to know. So thank you again for giving me your time and attention and your eyeballs. I know that's the best currency I can ever ask for. So hopefully you all learned at least one thing tonight that you can take forward and help grow your confidence and connect a little more deeply. And you all should be on video. So no excuses.
I just followed you on Instagram, so there we have that.
Nonsense. A lot of nonsense in those stories.
I love it. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. Really valuable information to bring to the audience. So I really appreciate it. And we'll talk again after this. For the rest of you, how did you enjoy the episode? Give us some feedback. I'd love to know. Drop a comment. Even if you're watching this on the replay, it doesn't matter if you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube or Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching this. So let us know how we're doing. Also, for all of my viewers who tuned in today from the Gallows Arc, our free Facebook community, I want to say thank you so much. It means the world to me to see you guys watching from inside of our free, close-knit community there. The Gallows Arc is a community that we have for people to get the courage and the information and the tools and the resources to start telling their story online. Lisa mentioned her goal of helping 1 million people. You also know we have a goal of helping 1 million people tell their story online. There's a lot of people in here that have amazing stories to tell that would really benefit the entire audience if they could, and even beyond the audience, the world, if they could start getting those stories out into the world and getting them out to people. So please make sure that you join the Gallows Arc. You can go to bit.ly/Gallows Arc. That's bit.ly/GAWLOSARC. If you're here watching this on Facebook, you can actually just comment the word Gallo, GAWLO, and I will personally grab you and throw you in the group. That's what I'll do. I'll just grab you and I'll just throw you in a group like that. You'll wake up and be like, oh my gosh, I'm in the group. That's exactly how it works. So make sure you do that for us as well. Jody Hook says, my little girl rocks. I love that so much that your mom is here. Jeff Sherset says, great tips. Michelle says, be on video, ? Yes, Michelle wouldn't even let me take a picture of her and post it. Tamashian says, good stuff. Thank you guys so much for joining. It really means the world for us that we're 26, 27, 28 episodes into this, and you guys are still rocking it out every single night. I appreciate that. Speaking of every single night, guess what? We'll be right back here tomorrow. It'll be Wednesday. We're going to be talking to the marriage engineers tomorrow. We're going to be talking to Tamashian and Tavia Jones, talking about the intentionality in which they are raising their family and they've developed their marriage. It is amazing when you see some of the things that they're doing from a family perspective and from a marital perspective, even down to how and why they name their kids what they name their kids. So I'm looking forward to learning from them. I know you guys are as well. So meet me right back here tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch. Just come join us. You won't regret it. Until next time, take care of yourself. Love you guys. Peace.